This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 92. Welcome to Comic Geek Speak. I'm Brian Deemer.
I'm Kevin Moyer. I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Jamie D.
I'm Peter Rios.
We are sexy bitches, yeah!
And welcome to the show. Pardon me here while I plug in Kevin's headphones.
Plug me
That's
in.
right, let me get some feedback. And if you hear some clicking, that's the photographer from the newspaper taking pictures of us, because like we said in the last episode, we're so incredibly popular that, we have to have an article in the paper.
Easy.
Yeah. She'll go back and she'll change the article.
I'll have to bring my sawzall and change the doorway.
That's right. This episode of Comic Geek Speak is sponsored by eGerber Products, the industry leader in long-term storage sleeves for your collection. Visit them at www.egerber.com. eGerber Products, the protector for the collector. So, Shane.
I'm going to spout off about my 1,000 bags and boards I got last 2 weeks ago. I decided I was going to do it because
1,000 each?
1,000 each.
1,000 each.
Because I was about 4 or 5 months behind on current stuff bagging, and I want to do the Justice League thing. So I thought, well, I'll start with the current stuff that I'm behind on, and then go do the Justice League run. And even the crappy comics I have that I put in look really good. Man, I had some DC Who's Who that I just got off eBay, and some of them are a little beat up, and they look like brand new comics.
So what you're saying is if you buy My Lights from eGerber and you put your 25-cent bin comics in, you can sell them for like $20 each.
Oh, yeah. Oh, easily.
So the new tagline is, eGerber, we make your crappy comics look good?
I have to say I was a little bit worried at first because I got boards, too, from their own boards. And I opened them up, and they were really, really thick. And I'm like, there's no way these things are going to fit right. They're fine. They are so rigid, you can smack them against the desk and they're not building.
Standard size?
Yeah,
and
standard size.
2 mil?
2 mil, 1,000 each.
And they fit in the boxes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It looks great.
I know, I have to get some more.
So now, slowly over time, over the next 2 years, I'm going to slowly get a couple hundred here and there to keep going. Eventually, weed out other comics and redo other ones. Because my bags, the poly bags that I had, they've been in there for about 13 years.
Yeah.
So it's time.
Time to get new ones. Yeah.
And I'm
sure they've yellowed quite a bit.
Yeah, and after talking to him at the convention, he's like, well, they'll last for 100 years. I'm like, all right, then my kids' will have to worry about bagging them then. So
That's crazy.
That's the only reason I'm doing it. I mean, it is more expensive, and it's not like I need to add more money to a collection, but, to never have to worry about it ever again.
Exactly.
So
it's a long-term investment.
Absolutely. Yeah. That way, if they want to sell them, if they look at me and think I'm crazy, they can sell them and they'll be nice and neat.
Right.
So that's www.egerber.com. And a reminder for our book of the month, it is Aranya, Volume 1. You can get it at, it's the digest, you can get it from, Greta, get the hell out of here. The dog has taken over our studio here. You can get it at InStockTrades.com for $4.80. They also have Volume 2 as well. That's 40% off if you'd like. So, cheap book of the month this month.
And that Volume 1 collects Amazing Fantasy 1 through 6.
Correct.
Pretty sure.
Yeah. And contest reminders. We have 2 contests going on right now. One that has to do with toys, one that has to do with the Versus cards from Upper Deck. And for all the details on those 2 contests, you can check out our website and go on the forum where you can see all the other entries. All right, we got an email just today that I think is worthy of discussion. This one's from Colin. He says, "Hi guys, I was listening to your latest show on my iPod this morning, and you were discussing how retailers can push comics and included free comic book day in that discussion. Well, I'm a librarian in the UK, and for the past 2 years I have invited the local comic shop to bring down a bunch of comics to give away in the library on free comic book day. The response has been amazing. 1,000 comics have been given away each time. The comic shop is keen to do this again this year, I'm sure because it's great to find something that promotes comics and the library at the same time. It may be worth some it may be worth those listeners that work either in libraries or comic shops to set something like this up where they are. Best wishes, and thanks for the shows. Keep them coming. That's a good idea. We know we have, at least 3 or 4 librarians that listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter, you're making a funny face.
Is your volume up? Check your volume on your mic.
I don't hear him.
I can hear him.
My voice is coming, right? You look at the meter jumping.
Yeah, I'm watching that and I don't see it.
Well, this one doesn't matter. It's all about the computer.
Don't worry about
All
that.
right, just checking.
Throw in professionalism.
Hey, I can make myself louder so that you guys, I can only be heard over top of all you guys.
So that you come over all of.
You have like omnipotent level. Is that what
That's right. Yeah, that's maximum. Ours go to 11.
It goes to 11.
Puts us right over the cliff.
Yeah, as far as that goes, that's a great idea. Also, I think donating to hospitals, children's hospitals, places like that to get them, get stuff out there.
I did that with some of my earlier stuff when I was cleaning out, weeding through some things. There's some books that I thought I'd never get anything for anyway.
Like
so
those first 100 issues of Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah. The first 4 FFs, and no, I took like some Spidey Super Stories and things like that. And this was back like 15 years ago, and took them to the Reading Hospital and donated them to the children's ward. Figuring that gives them some stuff to read.
I figured that's what I could do with all those like Image swimsuit specials that I have. Need to get rid of those.
That'll go in the
And the
teenage
Dawn
wing.
and the Lady Death.
Yeah, all the Dawn, Griper Dawn comics. I was just going to say something. Oh, I want to remind everyone about our 100th episode coming up. That we're having the live recording where you can join us if you feel like driving and meeting us. It's January 22nd. That's a Sunday at Golden Eagle Comics in Reading. And we're going to start gathering about 12, and then we'll probably start recording about 2. And if you come, we ask that you spend at least $5 in the store just to help thank the owner for hosting us. And so it's going to be a good time, and we hope that you will join us.
I was thinking about that. That $5, that's nothing. I go in there to get one comic, like say Infinite Crisis. I go in for one thing, and I end up blowing like $20, $30.
I mean, that's 2 comics. I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like I said, any of us go into a different comic store, you always find something.
Oh, yeah.
To
Kid in the
pick up.
candy shop.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So,
Do we have any other news that we have to get out?
I don't think so. I think that's it for now.
All right. Well, then we can go right into
our segment.
what are we going to
Big
talk
segment
about?
for today. We're going to go back and do another spotlight, move back to DC, and we're going to spotlight the character of the Flash.
All right. Spotlight's
That was
over.
great.
It was so fast, you didn't even know it.
You have to slow it down to listen to that.
Yeah,
so
that's
you
right.
catch everything.
Have to listen to it frame by frame or bar by bar, whatever the terminology is for.
Where do you want to start?
Bit by bit.
Yeah.
I have a whole bunch of Golden Age Flash that we can quick go over because I'm sure we're not all pretty familiar with some of that stuff. And here's some stuff to pass around.
Alter ego.
Jay Garrick Flash, first appearance, Flash Comics #1, January 1940, in a story called The Fastest Man Alive, written by Gardner Fox and Harry Lampert, although Lampert would only go on to do 2 issues before being replaced with Everett Hibbard. That first issue of Flash Comics #1 also was the first appearance of the Golden Age Hawkman, Johnny Thunder, and the Whip. It was published by Max Gaines, edited by Sheldon Mayer for the All-American publisher, which was kind of at that time DC's sister company. Has anybody read any like a lot at all?
Not much of
Not
the Golden Age.
Age, no.
I think I've read the first story, but other than that, really, I've wanted to get the Golden Age archives,
Right.
but just never had the $50
Never had the $50.
at that time. Yeah.
Well, hopefully they'll do that in a showcase.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. I would like to see them do a little more Golden Age in the showcase
Yeah.
myself.
There are 2 Golden Age Flash collections. Golden Age Flash Archives Volume 1 and Volume 2. The first one collects Flash Comics 1 through 17. The second one collects 18 through 24, and also all Flash Quarterly 1 through 2. There's also a Comics Cavalcade Archives, which collects Comics Cavalcade 1 through 3, which is that featured Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and the Flash, all Golden Age. As far as, I mean, he was the first. From everything I researched, he was the first with that power, with the speed power.
How did he get the power? What's his origin? I mean, how did he?
It
Anybody want to take
was
that?
heavy water, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was doing an experiment with heavy water.
Good old golden age.
Yeah,
Well, radioactivity. That's.
I know what you meant, but it's
Radioactive heavy water.
heavy water.
inhaled the fumes, and he found out he could
Fumes
run
in heavy
fast.
water.
Instead of dying, he.
We have that right here in
super-
Reading. Heavy water.
And all you kids out there, this is not a good time to go huffing because you will not get super speed.
Don't huff that heavy water.
So other than his powers, he basically fought like a lot of gangsters and mobsters and things like that. And some of his main villains, superpowered villains, which a lot of these are still in existence today, are like the Thinker, the Turtle, Fiddler. There was a Golden Age Starfire, which I didn't know. The Shade, which if you're a fan of the Starman series.
Yeah.
Ragdoll.
Same thing with Starman.
Mhm. And I was surprised to find out that the rival from that JSA Injustice Be Done current story, that's like he looked like Jay Garrick, but he was like darker in color. He actually appeared in Flash 104 from February '49. So that was actually the last Golden Age Jay Garrick appearance, or I should say the last Flash comic, 104. So I was surprised to find out that that's actually of a character that's in existence.
Well,
so that's great.
There's Jeff Johns just pulling stuff from
Exactly.
way back.
Exactly. Real quick, I said Flash Comics through 1940 through 1949. He also guest starred in All Star Comics 1940 through 1951, All Flash Quarterly, Comics Cavalcade, All Star Comics from 76 to 78, of course All Star Squadron and Infinity Inc., and he's a current member of the current JSA series. He inspired Quicksilver from Quality Comics. He appeared in November 1940. Quicksilver is the one that eventually would become Max Mercury. And he also inspired the Wizard over at Marvel, who came about in August 1941. These are cover dates.
That wasn't the RZA, right? That was
No,
the Wizard.
Wizard.
He was not a rapper?
No.
Okay.
And also Johnny Quick in More Fun Comics 71 from September 1941. So pretty much that's, I haven't, like you guys, I haven't read much about him.
Yeah.
Other than, he was inspired by Mercury and to be created and
Hence the design, like with the helmet. And
helmet
such.
and the wings and yeah.
Yeah.
So beyond that, and we can go back and talk about his place once we get through all the
Yeah,
other
because he'll
stuff.
come back into.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have just one real quick while we're talking about him. A friend of mine, a gentleman by the name of Tom Miller, who was huge into the Golden Age, always would laugh about telling me about Jay Garrick and how he would carry his helmet in a lunch pail, and that's how he would turn into the Flash. He'd take it out of a lunch pail and zoom, he'd zoom off. He always said that was so funny. Even as a kid, he always thought that was a funny way to do it.
Well, he also had, and a lot of Golden Age characters had like a sidekick or a pet or something like that.
Right.
He had three guys called Winky, Blinky, and Nod that were Three Stooges or caricatures, I
Right.
should say.
Yeah.
So they appeared in a lot of his stories
Well,
too. So.
and those characters, they're from a poem or a short story or something, aren't they?
Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod are like nursery rhymes.
Yeah.
It's amazing that comics lasted
know.
when that's the kind of stuff you're dealing with.
But again, you're looking at the
Man.
mentality of what they're used to and what we're used to.
I
So
know.
I mean, for us to fathom that is, beyond our belief. But in their time, that was like hot stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was always the comic relief. I mean, Plastic Man had what's his face, Woozy
Winks.
Yeah, Winks, and I think Alan Scott had a comedy,
Doiby Dickles. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was just
And his talking cab. Or
That was just the whole thing for that generation to put comic relief into the sidekick.
Did they do anything with like World War II stories when?
Oh yeah.
I mean, they got
I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah. Especially with the JSA stuff too.
Right.
But most of his stuff was basically, like they said, just mobsters and
kind of everyman kind of
yeah.
street
Yeah.
crime kind of things like that.
And it's funny to think about, like, a lot of the superpowered stuff. Really, villains didn't come in until like Silver Age, and it makes you wonder, why did they make superheroes but not a lot of supervillains? Why were they just bank robbers and things like that?
I think maybe they didn't really think about having a super villain. I mean, back then, gangsters and bank robbers were it.
That was the thing, yeah.
That was what everybody knew and saw on TV.
So
So why not?
the norm?
Well, I was going to say, maybe
Nazis
because
and
Hitler
bank
was the main...
I was thinking the
villain.
same thing. Maybe they didn't want to make villains more powerful. Just
you
kind of downplay them more
Yeah,
so.
Yeah,
you wouldn't
exactly.
give them a challenge because you'd want them to always win easily back then.
Plus, it gives you that spirit of as if you gained the powers and you could be put into life situations dealing with a gangster, like say you got mugged or something like that. You know what I mean? It gives you that mentality and that kind of feel for things.
Right.
So that's probably where a lot of things in the Golden Age based off of, and then it just evolved, from that point.
Right. So then comes 1956, and now we're into the Silver Age Flash, Barry Allen, and I'll just spit out the information on him. First appearance, showcase number 4, Mystery of the Human Thunderbolt by Robert Kanigher, Carmine Infantino, and inked by Joe Kubert. There's actually 2 stories in that first showcase. He only appeared 3 more times in issue 8, 13, and 14 until they restarted the Flash at 105 in cover date March of 1959, and that would go on to issue 350 in 1985, which was the last issue. There's a lot of I brought an alter ego in. It's alter ego number 10. It's from September 2001. They have a really interesting article about who was the main creator behind the revamp of the Flash. And they had, if you talk to Carmine Infantino, it sort of goes one way. If you talk to Julius Schwartz, it sort of goes another. If you talk to Robert Kanigher, it goes yet a third way. Pretty much they all agree that somebody on high, like some DC exec said something of we want to bring back superheroes, and because Julius Schwartz had edited the previous Flash, they just looked to him to redo this one. So his main writing partner at the time, or one of his main writers, was Robert Kanigher, and both of them pretty much agree that Kanigher had a full script. Like once he told them what to do, Kanigher came up with the script. Infantino came in, read the script, designed the costume, fleshed out the story. But there's a lot of ambiguity about who was the one who came up with the actual origin and things like that. So that's
Kind of got lost in translation.
Lost in memory and all that.
Yeah.
There's even an account that Carmine Infantino did a feature called Captain Whizzer, I think it is. Captain Whiz. That it wasn't ever published, but he claims that the costume was the same exact as Barry Allen's Silver Age costume. But there's nothing exists. So, not to side on anybody, but just
kind of like the speculation you get from some of the older Marvel stuff early,
right.
Like Silver Age stuff. You get sort of the speculation of things that Kirby might have worked on before, Stan Lee and all this stuff. So you can see it's like a running theme that back then it wasn't taken as candid. No pun intended. You know what I mean? That it wasn't such a big deal. You contributed and you did your part, and that was it.
There's even something. Oh, I'm sorry.
Are they bitter between the three?
No. It's just every time somebody talks about it, it's the details are always just a little off.
Okay. They were all at a panel in New York when I was up there like a couple of years ago, and it was one of the most interesting panels. It was one of the things I stumbled on and didn't even plan on going to, and then I realized who was there. And just to hear those guys talk about all their memories and all the stuff that they had worked on together was a wonderful tale that they had to tell.
I couldn't imagine that they were. I just was curious the way.
Right.
I just wondered if they were
still.
And I think a lot of it too is because as DC got into their whole crediting their character, the creators and the characters that they wanted. So there's even debate about who really came up with this cover. This is that cover over there, the one where he's running through the.
Film strip.
Yeah, this one says that Carmine came up with it. Another one says that Robert Kanigher actually kind of did a thumbnail of it. So there's all different accounts, but the most as Joe Kubert said when we talked to him, nobody thought this was going to last. Even Carmine
Right.
Infantino came in and thought, okay, I'll do this, and we'll move back into westerns or something like that. And it took off. And even though he had 4 appearances in those months before his series kicked up, something clicked, and the Silver Age was born. So, like I said, it ran 350 issues. Writers such as Gardner Fox and Cary Bates and Broom, and I can't remember his first name. It's going right out of my head. Thank you, John Broom. In Flash 123, September 1961, was when the Silver Age and Golden Age Flash met, and Flash of Two Worlds, starting the whole Earth 1, Earth 2, the whole multiverse. And of course, Barry Allen was key in Justice League America, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and so on. So, do we want to talk about him for a little bit? If people have read his stuff before we get to Wally.
With Barry?
Yeah. Has anybody read any of his stuff? No?
Not really. I mean, that was before I really started getting into DC, and that's one of the runs I always wish they would reprint, especially the Trial of the Flash. That's, from what I hear, that's supposed to be a good story. And maybe with these showcases that they're doing, maybe they'll start to reprint some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that was traded in a trade paperback.
Trial?
Trial?
No.
Huh.
No. There's 4 archives for the Silver Age Flash. And well, I should say the 4th one is projected for 2006. There's actually 3. And so far it collects 104 through 132. What's that?
I said liar.
Oh. What do you mean, liar?
You just lied, and then you
No,
corrected.
I went back and corrected myself.
before they catch
What
me.
if somebody stopped
Relax.
listening at that exact moment, and then they think they're
Rushed out and got it.
Yeah, they shut off their iPod and went straight to the comic shop.
Fourth?
All right, there's 3, with a projected one being in
Oh, it's too late
2006.
now.
104 through
They've already
132.
shut the iPod off.
I did have a few issues back when in the Barry Allen run of Flash, especially because of my brother. He was more of a DC fan than I was growing
Right.
up, and which is where I kind of got into the Green Lantern thing, because it was like a team up between them and with
They
Vandal
were best
Savage.
friends, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's how, when they started reintroducing that material in the newer versions of, I was like, hey, I remember these guys. I didn't remember reading a lot of this stuff, but I remember, and I still
Right.
have some of those issues yet, even though they're kind of beat up yet. But Vandal Savage was prominent, in the issues that I was familiar with.
I've picked up some of the like the mid to high 300s that it went up to, like the 300, 350, in 50-cent and dollar boxes occasionally that have like backup stories with somebody. God, who was it? Elongated Man was in?
Oh, yeah.
Or Hawkman?
But Elongated, I know Firestorm was a backup in a couple issues. Kid Flash, of course.
Not that I've read them, but I have them.
Right. In his origin, I'm just showing the guys here, they have a scene where he's first realizes about his super speed, and he's at a diner and a tray of food falls, and he's able to pick it up. And when I saw this in the Spider-Man movie, in the cafeteria scene,
yeah.
I went, oh, look at that. Whether they did it intentionally or not, who knows? But it was a clever trick that if somebody was a fan of the Flash, it was kind of cool. I read actually all that Trial of the Flash, from when he killed Reverse Flash onto, it was like issue 324, something like that, through 350. And you're right, it should be traded. They could probably get 2 trades out of it. And it was long. I mean, it seemed to go for a while, but at that point I didn't know. I was young reading it. But it was cool. It was a different kind of thing. They voted him. They voted whether he was going to stay in the Justice League or not because of what happened. He was about ready to marry his second wife, and you could tell it was a series that was winding down. I mean, they tried to get every aspect that makes the Silver Age Flash cool, like the Rogues, the Cosmic Treadmill, the Flash Museum. I mean, all those cool things that are part of the Flash lore were in those last 25 issues. I want to say it canceled because of low sales. The interest they couldn't boost it, and that's why eventually they just decide to do what they did with him in Crisis.
Yeah.
There wasn't lag time between the series ending and Crisis. That happened right simultaneously.
Yeah,
Pretty much so,
I think it.
I'm not saying it was like month after month kind of thing,
Right.
but it was fairly frequent within the times that series ended and Crisis happened, and then the new series went picked up right from there.
Right. They even said in the last issue of Flash, something like, and they lived happily ever after for a little while. So they knew the plans of what they were going to do.
Whereas anybody reading that would just think something else happened.
Right. But it certainly, part of the reason why they did what they did for the Crisis was because he was such the symbol for the Silver Age for the DC universe that they felt that was very symbolic to do what they did. And also, I know a lot of fans were upset, but at least we still had somebody that in the wings that
could pass off the mantle.
Yep. And since it started off as being one character and then another character, it wasn't like he couldn't pass it off.
Right. And I'm sure DC had no intention of never, would do something like that without having something to pass it through.
Right.
And it was done very well. I mean, so it wasn't something that was done very trivial or disrespectful to Barry Allen.
Right.
I still think that's the best or most well-planned death, most meaningful. Hopefully, and you see him come back every now and then.
Yeah.
But hopefully he won't come back forever.
Key artists, key creators, Carrie Bates was a main mover as a writer for those for a long time. Of course, Carmine Infantino, Don Heck was also an artist on this book, and there are others that I'm sure I'm forgetting. And in that run, you got the first appearance of, of course, all the Rogues Gallery, and he has a lot, and they're all kooky and fun, and also elongated.
Why do you think Flash seems to have almost more villains than just about anybody else? Because he's too fast to. I mean, why? Just the creators that got involved just decided to
Carmine Infantino
keep popping them out.
He's one. He pretty much says that he was a designer of most of those earlier ones: Captain Boomerang, Mirror Master, Heatwave, things like that. Was it a way to, I don't know, balance against what Batman had? They all, and it's funny, they all are weapons oriented. Not many of them are too super powered. Even the one like Abracadabra has magic, but it's not really magic. It's future science that just looks like magic to us.
Maybe because Carmine was such a science fiction nut that
Could be.
He liked gadgets and stuff as opposed to superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
Might just be his personality.
Yeah,
And it worked well.
Or just trying to come up with a bunch of guys that could actually go toe-to-toe with him, with the Flash, and cause him some kind of troubles rather than just zip, 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 I'm done, you're going down.
When did Zoom come about?
I was just going to ask that.
the Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
He's been in for a while. I don't think anything I have here has his first appearance, but he's a definite villain that was I don't know. I don't want to maybe say 60s, but at least by the 70s he was already there. And that was that's his arch enemy, and that's as far as his life goes, he's the main motivator. I mean, everything he's done to him, to Iris West, to the second wife, even to this day, he's still around and missed in a way. I like the new Zoom, but there was something about the old Zoom I also really liked. But
by the way, I'm looking at Comic Book DB, and there are almost no Flash issues in there, so
Yeah, I saw that.
Let's do a run here.
Get on that.
I was going to look up, and talk about it, and now there's nothing.
Every time I go to put something, I'm like, oh, it's already been put in. Oh, sorry. Like some of my favorite stuff's already been put in, which is just my lack of being able to do it. But man, I got to get on and get some Flash in there.
Yeah.
I'm looking in the Life and Times of Barry Allen, the graphic novel, trying to get a hint of when Zoom came, and it just says that he was from the future and had a grudge against the Allen family.
Right, but they're not going to.
But it doesn't. Yeah. I thought maybe around it would give some kind of reference that would clue us in.
Yeah, I didn't bring any of the secret files, and I should have. Yeah. Go ahead. Oh, I thought you
I have the encyclopedia in the other room.
That would have it in. Of course, Quicksilver was Marvel's speedster, and he came out in '64, created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. But he went. He certainly had a different life, a different experience, than Flash did. And if you want to read more about Barry Allen, of course, there's those archive collections. Like I said, you could also find most of his earlier issues, in the back issue bins. The JLA Year One miniseries, which is traded, is a really cool modern telling of not only him but the JLA.
Yeah, I mean, even Aquaman was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that was so well written. Mark Waid and Barry Kitson.
Yep. Like Shane said, the Life Story of the Flash hardcover, which is written by, they say, Iris West, as told to Mark Waid and Brian Augustin and things like that, which added a whole nother layer to Barry Allen's life, which we can talk about when we talk about Wally West. But that's a really good look at Barry Allen and the Silver Age Flash, with some great artwork by Gil Kane and I think Carmine Infantino, maybe a little, and some other artists.
In the book that Shane was just showing, there was a lot of that pages with the zoom and stuff in was all Gil Kane stuff.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, it really is. Of course, the DC, the New Frontier 6 issues, or 2 trades, has Barry Allen in, very prominently, too. And the Crisis novel by Marv Wolfman is told from the...
I have to get that.
Yeah.
You know, I read the first
from his point of view.
first like 50 pages of that. It's very interesting how he wrote that in, because he wrote it so that like Flash is talking and he gets ahead of himself and he goes, wait, I got to back up, I got to slow down.
Yeah.
So it even portrays how his mind is just working so fast.
Right. So Shane got the encyclopedia, and he's going to look up, see if they have Reverse Flash when he appeared.
So how many people here cringed when Barry Allen died and Wally West was taking over the mantle as far as the Flash? I mean, were the reactions kind of...
I always read DC Flash with Wally. I didn't read Crisis until after I had already gotten to know Wally pretty well.
And I was at the point, and I've said this before, that I had read enough DC at least 2 or 3 years before Crisis that I enjoyed it, but wasn't married to a lot of the characters. And since I was such a Titans fan, to see Kid Flash actually take over, it was exciting for me. I didn't connect with Barry Allen as much as I did Wally West growing up. So it seemed just like a natural progression and just I thought a cool aspect. I know there were people who really were upset about it. But, But, that day and age, we didn't have the internet, so...
Well, that's just it. And that's why, just by talking amongst us, it seems like, we really didn't have much to say about Barry, but yet he's this iconic character that, everybody kind of thinks of when you think of the Flash, and he had an impact, but not on the impact that what people would probably think that he had on the universe, so...
Yeah. I mean, you could say that he was your favorite character at that time, but the reason he's so cool now, and Jay Garrick, I think, is because what has been done with them since then. They were very iconic. Yes, Jay Garrick is the first speedster, but their personalities and where they are now owe a lot to what happened during Mark Waid's run more than anything. So
I love reading Jay in JSA.
Oh,
yeah.
You bet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first time I've ever encountered him. Because, of course, I didn't never read DC, but...
Reverse Flash. First appearance, Flash Series 1. 139, September 1963.
63, that early.
That's what the encyclopedia says.
Yeah.
Now, we know it has some
Sure,
discrepancies.
but I'm sure that's probably...
Well, online, on the comic book DV, they have 137, which is June of 63, so...
There you go.
It's close enough.
Yeah. Oh, with him in it, or just no?
No.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
I'm just saying that's the closest issue they have, and the date is the same. That's why I'm
Well, they have character searches in there. Maybe he's in there.
Just going back quick to the Barry Allen, why he's such an icon. I think, to me, it's because of his death, because of the way he heroically gave himself to try to stop. And to me, in any storyline, that always gets me. When the hero has to make the ultimate sacrifice for the better good, and DC has just built upon that, and I think that's one of the smart things they've done, as in never actually bringing him back, because that, to me, again, just cheapens the original death and the original sacrifice that the story gave you.
Not like that's never happened.
Well, no, yeah. But to me, that just...
Which is a total difference compared to Hal Jordan, from what they did with Hal Jordan and how he ended out, and then his predecessor took over. It's a total different ball of wax, and you saw a total different reaction from it as well.
One was editorial-driven, one was story-driven.
Exactly. So, I mean, you can see why the Barry Allen death meant so much, and yet it held true even after he was gone, whereas it was the opposite for Hal Jordan. And, will we ever see Barry come back? Hopefully not. But
And when somebody here was talking about the Rebirth series, the Green Lantern Rebirth series, I wondered what that series or how Hal Jordan, and we're on a tangent here, but how Hal Jordan would have been, how would it be stronger if he wasn't around as the Spectre, but they still had this story. Now I don't know how they would do it because having the Spectre was actually very integral to that story. But I wonder if it would have been more, powerful. But I don't, who knows? It still was a great story. It was just something I was thinking about when we were talking about it. So the one that we're probably all most familiar with is Wally West as the Flash.
Never heard of him.
And
I thought Bart was.
What? Yeah.
He showed up in the last issue of Crisis as the Flash, as the new Flash. Was in the Legends crossover for 6 issues, and then would get his own series right out of Legends with Mike Barron and Jackson Geiss on the artwork. And he's been around. We're up to 220 something right about now. He's been in the original Teen Titans as Kid Flash, the new Teen Titans, Legends, I said Flash, the Justice League Europe, Justice League America, the JLA by Morrison, in the Titans series before Jeff Johns took over. First appeared as Kid Flash in Flash series in the Flash 110, December of 1959. And so that's the Flash most of us are familiar with, I'm sure. So if
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Were you waiting for an answer?
No, I just, anybody want to chime
To me,
in
the
on their
Flash is
experiences?
impulse. He always has been, always will be.
What's that?
Just kidding.
Oh.
I have a friend who dabbles in comics every now and then, but he absolutely loves the Flash. When the TV show came out, he loved it. It's always been his favorite. And this Flash Race Against Time that ran through with was it
John Fox.
John Fox that came back. Yeah. There was the cover when he came back was Flash back from the future, and it was done out in a Back to the Future typeset. And he's also a huge Back to the Future fan. So I found a copy of that before I even had one. It took me years after that to find another one for myself. But I found one for him, and I had it mounted and framed for him because it seemed to cross two of his most brilliant passions as a fan of stuff.
That's cool.
So it was just a neat little thing that I was able to do for him. And I got it done in a red border and a black case, so it looks kind of flashy. I think the inside...
No pun intended.
Yeah. The inside thing has a yellow interior border, so it
Jamie's
turned
just
out
shaking
nice.
his head.
I was going to say pun intended.
That one was intended.
they're flying tonight.
For me, it was a no-brainer. It was I mean, I hooked onto it. It was interesting. I was trying to think about this as a character. Like, why did they take him out of the Titans? Why did they push him into the mantle of this? And I do kind of remember, I think, Marv Wolfman at one time saying he was a hard character to write during New Teen Titans because there wasn't, not that you couldn't do much with him, but because of his abilities, sometimes you almost either had to write him out or you had to put him in a situation where he wouldn't be able to take care of things. He was a little, when I look back on some of those New Teen Titan issues, he was a little, very conservative with his personality and what he thought about politics and things like that. And I think that's probably the reason why they gave him the disease that he had, where his speed was slowing down and before the crisis, and as a way to kind of depower them a little bit. But then when that series hit, man, that was gold.
Yeah, it did. It took off.
I do kind of remember Marv Wolfman saying that as one of those, the Titans go running in, Flash is already beating up the bad guy, and he's back at Titan's Tower putting his feet up.
Yeah.
So that's why. I kind of thought it was kind of interesting what they did when they first brought him back, with the whole fact that he could go real fast, but then he'd have to sit down and he'd have to eat and consume all his food
For the metabolism.
to keep the metabolism going, and then he'd go running out, and it was one of those, if he didn't eat, he'd get tired, and then he would. But they kind of did away with that as the story went along. But I thought that was kind of an interesting hook in the beginning.
Yeah, his series, when it first started, he won the lottery, became rich, Francis Kane was a big part of that first series. For me, it was the first time Vandal Savage really stuck out as like a supervillain. I don't know if they brought him back. Well, they did. They did, yeah. Amped him up. You know, they kind of made him even more powerful than he was whenever he appeared in Justice League and things like that. And I only read about maybe a year and a half before the whole Millennium thing kicked in, and I got out of comics. And then from Mike Barron to William Messner, I actually never read a lot of the William Messner Loeb's ones. I skipped right all over that one.
That's when I dropped the title. Actually, I was
Really?
reading it in the beginning with the Mike Barron issues, and then I kind of tailed off with the William Messner Loeb stuff. And it wasn't just because it wasn't
No, I just
terrible.
got
It's
out
just
of
I
comics
kind of started
in general, yeah.
thinning things down, and that's one of the things that I wasn't really connected to, so I let it go. But later on when Mark Waid came on, and then I heard things from other people as far as what was happening, and I was like, oh, this is intriguing, and got roped all right back into it, and a higher level too.
I was thinking the other week when I was doing Flash comics, bagging them and stuff. I wondered how long, because I was never a big Flash fan all my comic book collecting career, and I started off with that. Was it called Three of a Kind, where it was Flash, Kyle, and
Connor Hawk.
Hawk on the boat, and here that's like 6-7 years ago already.
Yeah,
that's how I've collected a pretty good run of current Flash stuff without really realizing just how long I've been reading it.
Right.
It's pretty good. I mean, Wally's definitely my favorite Flash.
Yeah.
He's just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he had the benefit of being around during a time when writers paid attention more to developing a character's personality as opposed to just telling stories. I think that's true of anybody created after 1984 or anybody after Chris Claremont. Yeah, that's kind of
like
what
the
I think.
75 range.
Yeah. It goes beyond just simple episodic storytelling and into ideas and themes and plot lines and dangling plot threads and subplots and all that. So, with William Messner Loeb's, there was also Greg LaRocque took over a lot of the artwork, and he was on for quite a while. And then I guess we might as well just go right to Mark Waid.
Yeah.
Mark Waid's run on the Flash. Born to Run was his first storyline, Flash 62 to 65 in 1992, and pretty much from there until he wrote until 163, I want to say, something around there.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Because he stopped and Jeff Johns took over right away. So
well, there was a couple issues.
There was like one or two filler things here and there. Yeah,
there was a good Jay Garrick story and stuff like that.
But Mark Waid, go.
Speed Force.
Yeah. The Speed family. I mean, that's one of the things that drew me back into it was after people were telling me about what he's doing with this, with creating the Speed Force and bringing in the characters, and I started picking up some issues and having Max Mercury and Jay Garrick back, and those things were kind of appealing to me. The Speed Force, I kind of thought, that sounds dumb, but as I'm reading it, I'm like, you know what, this is kind of cool. It's a total new level for this character, and to have these other characters involved, I was intrigued. Otherwise, Jay Garrick, I could care, you know what I mean? It's like somebody I could have cared less about because I didn't read anything about him. Mm-hmm. But have him being brought back into that, into the JSA, I was like, this guy's cool. I want to read more of this guy. And the stories that Waid was writing, it was one of those things you didn't feel like he was running out of ideas. What can I do for the Flash? What can I throw up against him? I mean, it was like constant, just good stuff. Just a good well of material that he had, and it just kept going. I mean, he just kept rolling with it.
Would you guys say, like, in my mind, I always think Mark Waid invented the Speed Force and revitalized the Flash and created the Flash family. And then I look at Jeff Johns, who revitalized all the Rogues to a whole nother level. Would you guys agree with that, or do you think, like, Mark Waid did a lot with Rogues? Because I didn't read a whole lot of the Waid stuff.
I don't think his stuff really focused as much on the Rogues as what Jeff Johns did.
His Waid for me is like a couple things. Like you said, the aspect of the Flash family.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah.
Now, and also including Johnny Quick and Jesse Quick and Impulse eventually. That to me was so neat to have all your speedsters in one book was kind of cool. And then other books kind of copied that. In Green Lantern, they stuck Jade in, and Alan Scott was in it for a lot. The strongest aspect, which is why it was so personal to Mark Waid, I think, was just the whole thing between Wally and Linda. He created and built that relationship, and it was pretty much the center point of most of his stories, especially after 100. And that, to me, was really, I thought that's what made it very personal, put it on a personal level.
And again, it goes right back to the building of a family.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that, and that's, to me, the Speed Force was cool. It gave everybody kind of the same footing. You understood, rather than the heavy water and the lightning and the cantation of the mathematical equation to make them run. They were all tapping into one thing. It was all the Speed Force. Did some great stories with that, but to me it was always, and that's why I love big team books, it was the family. They built, you got more bang for your buck. You got Jay Garrick, you got bringing Impulse in, you got bringing Max Mercury, and then taking them away and putting them in their own book. They were already developed characters which you cared about and you wanted to follow. So to me, that I had no problem then picking up another book. Again, like everybody keeps saying, the family aspect is what I really loved about the Mark Waid run.
He also created this whole lineage of speedsters that go through every century practically in the future, and also went backwards and retconned some things into Barry Allen's life story that could make all this possible.
Well, it was Max Mercury. I mean, Max comes from, I guess, the Old West. They put him in the Old West at one point.
Right, yeah, they took him as the quality character, and well, I should say they took that character and they kept the costume, but they didn't keep the Quicksilver name. Eventually, they brought it in, but what I was talking about was the whole revelation that Barry Allen had a twin.
Okay.
And then you got the whole evil twin thing aspect going, which also would go through the centuries and is even being played out now with Jeff Johns stuff with, I'm not going to say it because it might give it away, but that whole family rivalry between the Allens and the Thawns, which Professor Zoom is part of, is all, even that's now. So that's another thing that Mark Waid really built up. In fact, the one storyline called Chain Lightning is all about that. So there were a lot of things that Mark Waid really just he nailed the book, and I always say I can't say he went out with a strong story, the last one he did, but he at least put it somewhere. He put it back on the shelf.
And he had an amazing body on that.
Oh,
I mean, so it's not like he just did 2 years or something like that. I mean, that was quite a long stretch for him, and what he accomplished in that stretch by far outreaches any other, Flash creator, I feel, as far as raising the level of the character and just completely taking the icon of the Flash and adding so much to it in such a short, kind of relatively period of time, considering the history of the Flash.
Yeah, I mean that. Well, go ahead.
I was just saying how much of that is traded.
A lot of it is traded.
Yeah.
Shane has over there the Return of Barry Allen, right? Is that what that trade's called? The Return of Barry Allen is a phenomenal story.
Yep.
Love that story. Not going to say anything about it.
Yeah, because you really can't.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's Greg LaRocque artwork and Mark Waid and.
I haven't read it in a couple years. I should now that I have it pulled off the shelf. I should put it.
Oh, it's good. The Born to Run, I'm pretty sure, is traded.
Yeah, that is. I saw that.
That's like Wally West Year One. They kind of call that. His Terminal Velocity is traded.
Yep.
Return of Barry Allen is around issue 75 and all those. Terminal Velocity is around.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to leads up to 100.
And that's your introduction of Impulse story.
Yep, and also the Speed Force is pretty much born out of that.
Oh, it took him. I didn't realize that it took 100 issues for him to bring. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he only came in the 60s.
I was going to say, he was only started in the 60s.
I'm not sure if Dead Heat is traded. It might be. That one was with Savitar.
But so they don't have
I think
trades
that
for
is.
like every single issue.
Yeah.
They
No,
have it just
it
for
is.
like the main
have-
storylines.
Yeah. It is traded, you said?
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah, that's traded. I have that one.
That's actually my favorite Mark Waid story. It's so good. He has
Carlos Pacheco art, Brian,
On which one?
on is it Dead Heat?
Dead Heat.
Yeah.
He was
That
actually
was
there.
funny.
Issues 108 to 111.
That's not the Johnny Cobalt story, is it?
No,
No.
that's the
This is Savitar. He's
that's the Chain Lightning.
Okay.
Where they bring in Cobalt, Blue
It
Cobalt.
was funny when you said Carlos Pacheco. Brian said, "What?"
yeah, I know.
Just
Well, that's what I mean.
snapped through.
He and I both love Carlos Pacheco, and when I
Well,
found out he was on some of that, I was like, oh, hey,
Well,
Which issues, Kev?
I don't.
'Cause
he
I
was
wasn't
on
on the
some of
first
those Terminal Velocity or before, because then also Oscar Jimenez, which
Right.
was Carlos Pacheco's like.
Yeah, it's not like he had a straight run for a long
No,
period of
he
time.
just
It's
filled
just
in
they
here
kind
and
of
there.
filled in, but he had a couple issues in a row here and there.
There's the Race Against Time. That's traded. Chain Lightning. Not sure if that's traded or not. And then after Chain Lightning, one of the last Waid storylines deals with the Dark Flash, quote unquote, the Dark Flash, the Flash of Hypertime that came in and messed things up a little bit. And that's when Flash got married to Linda Park and so on and so forth. But a lot of the Waid stuff is traded. Not all of it, though. It's
I
worth
wish
a-
they would just do like
Well,
like
that may
DC
change
DC needs a Visionaries line.
Yeah.
So they just start at the beginning and just keep going through the good ones and the bad ones, just the whole damn run.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, basically, it's like, where do you stop? I mean, I know Wade started in the '60s, and then after he left, then Johns took over. I mean,
Well,
so
and then you start Visionaries.
you almost
Jeff
could do
Johns.
that whole run,
Yeah.
And but then you're only missing the first 60 some issues. So why not trade that as well then, and basically give you the whole kit and caboodle?
Well, I'm all for it.
Oh, I'm all for it as well. I would love to have it. And read
I'm
them
pretty
again.
sure all the Jeff Johns stuff.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
going
that
to
is-
say.
It all
these days,
every
the way they do
issue,
it.
right?
Yeah, those are sequential, and
Right.
done that way.
Some of the artists during Mark Waid, we already mentioned a few. Also, Paul Pelletier did the Chain Lightning stuff.
Yeah.
Pelletier. Waringo. You can't talk
That's
about
true.
Flash and not, mention Waringo, especially in terms of impulse. During the Grant Morrison, Mark Miller run, Paul Ryan and Pop Man.
Didn't Salvador LaRoque did some too?
Yeah.
He was in
Think
there with that Oscar Jimenez
during
and
Terminal
Carlos
Velocity, yeah.
Pacheco, yeah.
Alan Davis did a lot of those earlier covers. Trying to think who else.
Well, didn't Brian Boland do a run of covers on that too?
I think he came on with Jeff Johns. He came and did a whole
okay.
bunch of
I was thinking.
yeah. Oh, there's also Sal Voluto is also a penciler on this returner Barry Allen, and on this Race Against Time, pencilers Oscar Jimenez, Anthony Castrillo, Jimmy Chung,
Mm-hmm.
and Sergio Cariello. I bet that Jim Chung's probably some of his earlier stuff, maybe.
Well, what year?
I would think so.
Gotta be.
This year, 1996. This says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And since I've been accused of not giving people props, if we're gonna give Mark Waid props, then we gotta also give Brian Augustin props too.
Yep.
Because he, I mean, it was basically Mark Waid, but I really think he put a lot into it too. I really think it was one of those Lee Kirby type collaborations where they both put a lot into it.
Yeah, and there are a lot of stories that are also credited Mark Waid and Brian Augustin. Yeah. Definitely, you can't discount what he did. I mentioned there that there's a year that there was a time when Mark Waid went over and wrote JLA for a little bit, took over for Morrison, and Morrison came over and did the Flash stuff, and for a year with Mark Miller, and then Mark Miller actually took over. It was just a year, and those are some of the most fun superhero books you could read. I mean, they weren't, if you're not a fan of his more heady stuff, this was,
Psychological.
this is all flat out superheroics, and like I said, Mark Miller actually takes over in the last 6 issues or so. And there were a lot of things actually in that run that stuck. He got his suit from the Speed Force now.
Yeah.
That's right, I forgot about that.
That was also the run that Jakeem Thunder got a hold of the Thunderbolt, quite by accident. And there were some interesting things dealing with the Thinker, the old Golden Age Thinker villain, which then became updated in the new JSA series. So it's actually an important, and that's actually when you said the 3 of a Kind run, that was part of that. Yeah. So if they ever wanted to trade 12 issues of that, that'd be great because that was a fun read.
Well, hopefully with DC with their new policy with trades, I hope they do follow through with some more stuff like this and get it out there and get it accessible.
I mean, almost everything by Morrison is traded, so there's a run that could be traded as well.
And one, I was looking through one of these trades we have here, and one member of the Flash family I kind of forgot about that they had. They even went and brought XS from Legion, and they brought her back into our time, and then like shot her back into the Legion, but to totally put a connection with Flash and Legion of Superheroes.
Right. Anybody else have anything to say about Mark Waid's Flash? It's good. Read it.
It is.
Good stuff,
It is.
yeah.
Mediocre at best. No, I'm kidding.
And then, of course, we get to the Jeff Johns run, which I've read maybe half of.
Yeah, I haven't read it all either.
Yeah, I read 1 or 2 storylines before 200, but not that storyline that led up to 200. And then I read, obviously, the stuff with Howard Porter on to the end.
You know, as soon as you said 200, something hit in my head that I forgot I did. I read that. I've read all of Jeff Johns' run, the whole thing. And when it was building up to 200, our friend Jamie of Earth 2 had emailed Jeff Johns a couple times and keyed me into it. And I did it around the mid-190s after I read those. And he responded back saying, well, if you like that, just wait till 200 and let me know then. And I read 200, and I thought, ugh. And then it got to like 203 or 204, and I loved it. And I absolutely ate my words for thinking, ugh, in 200, because it was fantastic, but I got a response from him. It was cool.
That's cool.
That's when I dropped it again.
Yeah.
And right around that 200, right after, when that whole
They're messing with his
memory and all that,
thing.
I was like, it just didn't sing to me, and I was like, okay, this is a book I can cut.
And
then
that's exactly what
and then it picked up, so I ended up picking it up again and then going back and getting those issues and then reading again and seeing the relevance of it and how it all played out. So very well.
I agree. I had picked up. I had let it go after Wade left, and I didn't pick up on John's right away. And a mutual friend of all of ours, Mike Spillane, was saying how good it was, and I thought, I'll go back. I'll give it a second chance. And he was right. It was great. Again, what Shane said, building up the bad guys, just doing stories, taking some of the bad guys, revamping them, making them a lot more interesting, a lot scarier, a lot more of a challenge for Wally. And like you said, Kev, at 200, I wasn't real thrilled with what they did, and I kind of dropped it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to drop it here. If I miss it, I'll go back and I'll pick it back up. And I did kind of miss it. So I wound up picking it back up, and I didn't regret picking it back up.
I'm kind of amazed that I'm the only one out of the group that stuck with that all the way through.
I've read them.
Wow.
I have them all.
Okay, cool.
I never
It's
stopped.
like, wow, that's weird.
I loved it. I mean,
Did you
because
get them as monthly, or
yeah,
at that time
that's
you
when
were
I was still
getting
buying monthly.
Yeah.
I'm behind now because I'm waiting for maybe the last trade of his to come out or whatever. But
And that's where the series should have ended.
no, I read. I started, I don't know, in the 180s somewhere, and then read right through to 210 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I liked all those issues because I wasn't invested in Flash, so I didn't know the whole memory thing. It was like, interesting. It didn't bother me at all.
Right.
And when they changed artist was Scott Collins, I always forget his name.
Scott Collins.
Yeah. Those first 4 or 5 issues, I couldn't stand it. I had such a hard time adjusting. But once I got into it and really just let myself sink into that watercolor type, once he left, I really missed it. I really had a hard time looking at the Flash comics because it didn't have him, because I really enjoyed everything that he put into that, all the detail, all the subtlety. It just clicked with me. I don't know why.
Right.
It was good.
I read an article on Flash with Jeff Johns, I guess not now, not like a current article, back then, and they talked about how in Scott Collins' artwork they took out a lot of the reds. They told the colorists, don't put any reds in because, number one, we want Keystone City to be blue collar, a blue collar type town, browns, grays, whatever, and we want the Flash. If there's the only reds we want are in his costume, or if there's blood. So I thought, I'll have to go back and look and see if that rings true. But that's kind of cool. It's a unique look.
It definitely highlighted the Flash.
Oh yeah.
Whenever he was doing something.
Yeah.
Plus, the way they toned the city came across in the colors. I mean, it didn't matter if it was Scott Collins' run or any other run, the Mark Waid run, whatever. Keystone City was significantly different than Metropolis, Gotham,
Right.
any other thing. You noticed it, and it was kind of clean, but it was kind of the suburbia meets city kind of, urban mix. But yet it was very clean and toned just in a specific way that it made it stand out, like it was part of the book.
I don't know why I think this, but whenever I read about Keystone City, I think Chicago. That's what I always equate. Now, I've never been to Chicago or anything, but that's just always what I equated it to. I don't really know why, but just in my head.
Along with the Rogues Gallery that Jeff Johns built up, he did also build up Keystone City. I mean, whether it was spillage from Opal City and Starman, but he took that aspect of building the city up, and also he actually, in that same article I read, he talked about how he wanted to remove the family aspect, remove all the other speedsters, get back to just the Flash, and build up the police relationship again, which is very
He
obvious.
certainly did, yeah.
He wanted to bring that back. He said that was something he wanted to bring back from the Barry Allen days, and again, if you read it, you can totally see that.
And it works, too.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't take away from what has already been there. So he just continued to build on it, but yet kind of trimmed down on the family, and the focus was more on Wally West. And you never took notice. You never sat and took notice. I mean...
Because when he brought in some of the police characters, Shire and... can't think of his partner's name. It was just...
I want to say Harrigan or something, but I...
Molina, something like that.
It was just, again, good characters, bringing them in, and they didn't seem out of place. It just seemed like, he was working with them and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I kind of like that. And what you were saying about the Reds, I'm going back and I'm thinking about the Rogues Gallery, and I can't think of, really, at least off the top of my head, any rogue that has red in his costume. Mm-hmm. It's all blues. I can think of, Mirror Master, orange and green.
Yeah.
Captain Cold is blue.
You'd have to look at
Captain Boomerang is blue.
Trickster with his Technicolor jacket, but even that's minute if there's any at all.
Yeah, I don't think there's any red in it. I think it's green and pink.
And it certainly makes sense as even if you go back to Barry Allen, put a red up against a red, it's going to not look as exciting.
Right.
I have to say, was so happy when Jeff Johns ended his run the way he did. I really loved that story. That's got to be one of my top two favorite Flash stories.
207 to 225.
Yep.
If you want to read a great Jeff Johns run, you might as well just go to those. They're all traded. Howard Porter took over the artwork. Michael Turner did
which
the
again,
covers.
he's fantastic.
Yeah,
too.
I like.
Not to
Howard
take away
Porter.
from him at all by talking about Scott Collins. He was just fantastic.
Jeff Johns was on for 5 years, 61 issues. You could also get the Flash Iron Heights one-shot, which is by Ethan Van Sciver.
Yep.
And that's the one where Johns really started his rogues stuff. He created some new ones, and his plan began.
Yeah, created a whole place for him, like an Arkham Asylum, but for the Flash's rogues. And I love Iron Heights. I thought that was a really great place to put him. I thought the Warden is a great character.
Yeah, man, God, I wanted to smack him a couple times.
Oh, sure. Sure, he was a real jerk, but man,
Great character.
A great character.
And all the rogues we talked about, and we have not mentioned Gorilla Grodd.
Yeah, I have in my notes back when I was mentioning the Flash Museum and the Cosmic Treadmill. I also forgot Gorilla City. You can't forget Gorilla City.
Talking monkeys.
Just around the room, your favorite Flash rogue.
Ooh.
Captain Cold.
Yeah, it's mine.
Yeah, I'd have to say the same.
Mine's Reverse Flash.
I'm the big monkey. I love Gorilla Grodd. Give me a monkey anytime.
In comics.
No comment.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, addendum onto that.
And then finally, we can't go anymore without mentioning him in cartoons and in the TV series and the possible movie that's coming out by David Goyer.
And thank heaven that TV series is finally coming on DVD next week.
Well, I did some research just to give people a background on some of this stuff, and the movie, there isn't much out yet because it's still in development. It is being written right now. David Goyer's involved, who's He's going to write, produce, and direct possibly the movie. There was a lot of speculation as to who the Flash was going to be. And actually, a lot of people were rumoring around that it was going to be Jay Garrick, and they were going to start from back in that time. But Goyer has been quoted as saying that Flash is one of my favorite properties. I think the character of the Flash, who moves faster than the speed of light, opens itself to rich cinematic and story ideas. Fans know there's been more than one Flash over the years, Goyer adds, but there's been a lot of speculation and rumor, but both Barry Allen and Wally West will be in this movie. So, he said, we're going into the Speed Force, and a lot of cosmic aspects of the character from more of the recent past. He said, trust me, we're going to do a lot more than have Flash run on water and create vortexes. So, he says he has a guy from MIT helping him with all the physics of it all and the things he can do. So he's really putting a lot of effort into creating a good cinematic version of the Flash. So it's not just going to be something that's splashed out there.
And I think the TV series proves that the costuming and the effects will work. I mean, look at when that was, and it still worked.
And for the movie, the Blade Trinity star Ryan Reynolds, who played Hannibal King, is rumored to be playing one of the Flashes, probably presumably Wally.
I could see that. I'd like to see him do that.
Well, and the thing is, I think he fits for that, because if you've seen Blade Trinity, he has that smart-ass attitude and that kind of that personality, and I think it would fit well for him as Wally West. And Ryan Reynolds has been quoted as saying he would love to do it. He thinks that's a great character, and he would love to get into it.
And if you haven't seen Blade Trinity for some reason, I used to watch Two Guys, a Girl in a Pizza Shop, and he was in that. And he was hilarious in that.
He is Van Wilder.
Yeah. And yes, on January 10th of 2006, the DVD set from the 1990 series, TV series of The Flash, is coming out. How many episodes is there? 21 episodes total.
One season.
One season. That's all it lasted. And there were some reasons why it didn't last. First of all, it was one of the most highest price tagged TV shows at the time. It was rumored to be about $1 million per episode, which for a TV show at 1990 was pretty high. And it got decent ratings, but the problem was it never had a set schedule. So that was one of the drawbacks for it. It pinballed around the schedule. So it never found a home. In throughout that also was when the Gulf War took off. So there was a lot of interruptions at times because of reports and things like that. So things got really bounced around for it. So, and then finally when they did put it in to a time slot, it went up against The Simpsons and things like that. So it just never had a true chance.
Yeah, it went up against Cosby. That was the big one.
That was the other one. Cosby and The Simpsons at the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they did a similar aspect, like we talked about the history of the Flash. It started out with more like common thugs, with the crime and things like that.
Right.
Which sat well, but then they started, towards the end, they wanted to bring ratings in, so they started bringing in his rogue gallery, put in Mirror Master, and put in Captain Cold and the Trickster, and but they said by that time it was too late. It was too little, too late, which was kind of odd because at the time in relation in 1990, this was at the height of success of the Tim Burton Batman movies, the height of the Star Trek Next Generation, which was flying, and right before X-Files and Lois and Clark came in. So it was right in between there. And had a perfect time.
Just didn't work.
It's just that they could, and actually, there's a quote from the head of CBS, who at that time, who was Jeff Sagansky, who actually officially apologized to John Wesley Shipp for mishandling the show. He said the viewing public mostly missed out on this top-shelf superhero adaptation, which was faithful enough for the comic geeks, yet accessible enough for the casual viewer. So CBS really took notice that they really screwed up handling the show, and it could have been something, and they fumbled it big time.
I was surprised to see one of my favorite comic writers was a huge part of that show, Howard Chaykin.
Right. There was the writing credits go to Howard Chaykin was also the the consultant, story consultant, creative consultant, as well as a writer. Gardner Fox was involved with it. He wrote some stuff for it. John Francis Moore, who I'm sure we've heard of, he did X-Force and some other stuff. Yeah. So those are the few of the ones that we would recognize.
And also Dave Stewart did the costume designing. The Rocketeer creator
Yeah.
did the design for the costume.
I think I heard somewhere that John Wesley Shipp got one of the 2 static costumes. Like there
Oh,
was
really?
there was the one that had a picture of him just standing and it was very rigid. And I thought I read somewhere along the way that when its show ended, he got to take one of those and has it.
I know if I'd ever do a show, I often thought of that. Oh, I want one. Freaking A.
And by the way, it's Dave Stevens, not
That's
Stewart.
what I was about.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you were saying that, it doesn't sound right.
Sorry.
Something,
I think Dave Stewart was the Eurythmics. Or something.
yes, he was. But of course, John Wesley Shipp played Barry Allen, the Flash. And he played Barry Allen. They used the origin which Barry Allen had, where he got struck by lightning with the chemicals and such. But yet they still played him more of Wally West.
Right.
With
They
the
had
metabolism, the
Christina
eating,
McGee.
and the esteem thing. And
Yeah.
so I mean, it played it all. But they did have Iris Allen was a character, and
She was cute.
yeah, they brought in his family. You had Henry Allen and Eve Allen, which were his parents. Linda Park was in it.
He worked for Star Labs, right? Or no,
Tina McGee
Christina
was a
McGee
scientist,
worked,
who helped him out
Right,
and
that's
developed
right.
a suit for him and would monitor him and helped him with his powers. She worked for Star Labs, which was an interesting thing that they threw into, which tied into the DC universe.
Yeah, Amanda Pays.
Yep.
Yeah, Amanda Pays.
To go from Max Headroom to the Flash was like, yep, I'm watching. I'm watching, babe.
That was Mrs. Corbin Burns in front of you trivia about
Yes.
that there.
And I made a list of. I went through the episodes, and I got an interesting list of a lot of cameos and guest stars of either well-known actors or up-and-coming actors or actresses. And
Right.
Richard Belzer had a reoccurring role as Joe Klein in a few episodes. I think he had a total of 9 episodes he was involved with. Emmett Walsh, which I know if you guys see a picture of him, if you know him, he has a career list like 10 miles long.
Great character
He played
actor.
Henry Allen, his father.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Gloria Rubin, who's on the ER, she had a reoccurring role as Sabrina, and she played in 5 of the episodes. The interesting thing on, pardon me, the one episode with Nightshade, which is kind of a nod to the Golden Age character, which was also the kind of the character basis for the Batman animated series, The Grey Ghost.
Yep.
In that episode, you had 2 Star Trek actresses, Jerry Ryan and Denise Crosby, both starred in those 2 episodes. The Mirror Master, Sam Scudder, was played by David Cassidy.
That's right. I forgot about that part.
Bill Mummy was in one of the episodes from Lost in Star fame. Lost in Space, I'm sorry.
And Babylon.
Joyce Heiser. She had a reoccurring role as Megan Lockhart in 3 or 4 episodes. Angela Bassett was in one of the episodes as Linda Lake. And of course, we all know that Mark Hamill played the Trickster.
Yeah.
So, so they're coming out, all 21 episodes. The only thing they said, there's going to be no extras on. So it's just all straight 21 episodes in one set.
After this long, though, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm not complaining at all. I've been dying to watch these again. Because the way the schedule had bounced around, I missed some of the episodes.
Oh, sure.
And some of them were, I stuck out. There was one that I did catch, and I didn't get to see the whole thing, was where they did a clone of him. And it came out like a reverse version of him. But it wasn't like the reverse Flash that you and I know. He had a blue costume instead of a red costume, and he was kind of like the mentally handicapped kind of thing. So it wasn't like he was not retarded or
Like a Bizarro version.
yeah, like a Bizarro version of the Flash. So, and that was really an interesting episode.
I'm sure that when it aired, I missed some episodes, but I caught up on them when Sci-Fi had them on one time. That was like 96, 97, because I know I was just newly married in the apartment.
Right.
And I think I caught all of them at that time.
I'm kind of looking forward to borrowing these from you guys because I never really cared for the show that much.
Really?
I mean, I watched the first one. It was okay, but I think what got me was the fact that there weren't the good bad guys. He was fighting mobsters and that kind of stuff. I was like,
Which
kind
you've seen in any TV show of a superhero. They never go over the top as far as making rogues for him. They try to keep it your everyman and kind of keep it rooted in everyday, and plus it helps on the budget.
Budget considerations.
Yeah.
So,
Oh no, I understand.
but I mean,
then I look at a series like Batman. as campy as it was, they gave you
Right.
the Joker, the Riddler, Catwoman, all the guys you were expecting to see.
Which, if you look at the last half of the season, is where they threw in all those great,
Right.
great
And that's
rogues,
when I
and
pretty
that's,
much given up
and that's
on
probably
it.
when most of the people didn't see them. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
but I mean, the special effects were awesome. I mean, they really did.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
The money went into it. Danny Elfman had done the music for it, and they did kind of that retro theme where it was back like you could see Central City was more looked like the 40s. You know, the cars were modeled after the 40s, and so it kind of had that retro feel, and you know, you could tell the music from like Danny Elfman from the Batman movies and such had that kind of music to it. And
Can I throw out that in the upcoming Justice League Unlimited that Mark Hamill's going to reprise as the Trickster for the voice?
I can't wait for that episode. It's an all Flash
too.
episode. Because I missed. That's one thing I've always said about the Justice League cartoon. I love the Justice League cartoon, but Flash is one of my favorite characters. And I used to get so upset watching those episodes because the Flash never did nothing. It's like you said with Marv Wolfman said. It's exactly what happened in that show. He'd run in and get bonked in the head and get knocked out, and everybody else would do everything else, and then he'd get up afterwards. And it finally, with the Justice League Unlimited that came out, this season started out. Just in the 4 episodes, he's appeared, twice, and much more flushed out and utilized character, and I'm loving it. And they showed the preview for the next episode, which was supposed to be out, but I guess it's coming out soon. Is a whole total focus on him and his rogues gallery and stuff. So highly waiting for that.
Cool.
And Michael
There it
Rosenbaum,
is.
who did the voice of the Flash in the Justice League cartoon, also did it as Kid Flash in the Teen Titans, which was also nice that there seems to be, even in cartoons, there seems to be some kind of continuity or thought to think of fans in that way.
Right.
And with the mentor Michael Rosenbaum, we also have to throw the not Wally West. Did they call him Wally West or did they call him Bart Allen? The Smallville, the little.
That was Bart Allen.
Bart Allen.
Bart Allen in Flash type character in Smallville, which was a good episode.
It was a great belt buckle, and he had the symbol on his backpack and all.
So that's
there you go.
I know there's one or two fans on the forum that really like. I think Mr. Pink has
Is a Reverse
an
Flash.
avatar of Reverse Flash. So I know. And fun and just today on the message boards once again to show that the listeners are right there. Somebody was like, "Hey, I want to read some Flash stuff. Anybody know?" I was like, and I almost put down,
Just
that
listen.
hold on to your, but I let it go. I was just like, God, I can't believe
It's
that.
amazing how when we think of things to do as a show, and it's like just as we're ready to do them, they pop up on the forum. And
No.
yeah, so
We got to do a sweep of this room. That's all.
Somebody's bugged the joint. All right, Peter. Our good friend Mario Muscar
Okay.
has entered a
Thrown his
submission.
hat into the ring.
That's right. He says it's Stump the Rios 1986 style.
Oh boy.
Question 1.
So big hair and wide lapel.
The bodacious Marvel question.
big belt.
The new universe. In the series Star Brand, the main character, Ken Connell, was given the Star Brand power by a strange old man. Later in the series, who was the old man revealed to be?
Ken Connell.
Answer. He was revealed to be an older version of Connell himself who had been placed 500 years in the past by the Star Child.
I hated that. I absolutely
I know.
hated that. I thought they ruined it.
That book was going so well, and then and no offense, but as soon as Byrne took over that book, it just and bombed. I mean, it bombed.
Yeah.
You lost the whole feel, and you lost the character, the main character, and you lost the feel of the book, and it just didn't go. It fell.
Are they trading any of that, Marvel, since the new universe stuff's coming out?
I don't know. They haven't announced anything. I know they're releasing. It was just in this previews. It's like a
One-shot special.
It's a one-shot special
Yeah.
with Ken Connell as Star Brand, but they're also putting in its collected edition. It has the first issue of Star Brand and also the first issue of Quasar. Not the first issue. Is it the first issue of Quasar?
I was going to say the Marvel milestone, which I'm going to
Yeah.
bitch about when we do our previews issue.
There's an essentials you could do. Starbrand 1 through 19 with the pit one shot.
Well, I think with the whole thing with Ellison taking over and redoing the new universe, I think you're going to see those
things come
trade.
back. Yeah.
Yep.
I know I've said it before, but I have to tell new listeners and stuff. I got into the New Universe by picking up The Pit, thinking it was a G.I. Joe one-shot because their base was called The Pit.
Right.
And I got sucked into the New Universe and read pretty much all this stuff for a time. But I always felt so stupid that I picked it up. I'm looking, I'm like, I don't see G.I. Joe in there, but it's got to be. What else could it be? And I picked it up to read it, and I'm like, I don't get this.
All right, question 2. The DC question. Way? Yes, way. Alan Moore took ideas and themes from different sources to add to his masterpiece, Watchmen. What important theme did he take from Roman satiric poet Juvenal's work, Satire the Sixth?
The whole who watches the Watchmen.
Yes, Alan took the Latin phrase "quis custodiet ipsos custodes," which translates literally to "who guards the guards" or "who watches the watchman."
As soon as you said Roman, I was like, that's got to be the only.
Question 3, the gnarly independent question. In 1986, Bruce Hamilton and Russ Cochran, Disney fans who had previously published hardback collection of Karl Barks comics and paintings, began to publish Disney comics themselves under a new comic book company label. What is the name of this label?
Is that Gladstone?
That is correct.
A sweep. A
That's 2 in a
1986
row, right?
sweep.
No.
No,
might have one
because
in the
there
middle,
was one.
yeah.
Yeah, but you just mentioned that, and because I was listening to that episode, so Jamie just mentioned that.
A clean sweep.
I take my bow.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You were kind of dreading the 1986 team, but
Yeah,
it worked in your
I was
favor.
like, ah.
Hey, we got a 5 minutes of manga.
Okay.
So let's play that.
Hey, Geek Speakers, you're listening to Jackson Murdoch. Okay, actually, you're listening to 5 minutes of manga! Hey, everybody, welcome. Sorry about that, Jackson. I'm just funning with you guys. And welcome back to 5 minutes of manga. It's Charlie, your host, or manga man. I got my microphone fixed, so hopefully this one sounds a little better. And I'm going to leave in that amazing musical introduction. So let's see what we're doing this episode. You know, I realized after I did the last 5 minutes manga, I told you guys I was going to be giving terminology each episode, and I forgot to do so last time. So manga terminology 101. Manga is geared towards specific groups and genres. Unlike American comics where we have superheroes, humor, etc., they have that stuff, but they actually separate it more by genres and target audiences. So we don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to go over the terminology of 2 genres. There's 5 or more genres, but I'm just going to go over 2 today. For instance, the shoujo, which you've probably heard of, which is for teenage girls. I'm sure if you know anything about manga, you've heard someone say shoujo comics. Then there's shonen, like the group Shonen Knife, which is for young teenage boys. And that's more of the type Dragon Ball Z stuff. It's geared towards boys that are up to probably around 18, 20, maybe a little older sometimes. And that actually bleeds into the girls as well. Teenage girls a lot of times, or girls in their late teens and 20s will like that stuff as well. So those are the some of the new terminologies that I'll drop on you today. And now I'm going to hit my manga pick of this cast, which is Drawn in Quarterlies, just put out Yoshihiro Tatsumi's The Pushman and Other Stories. This is a beautiful book. Now, for you manga listeners out there who really are into manga, this isn't, mama's traditional manga, if you know what I mean. This is manga for the illiterate. It's actually by Yoshihiro Tatsumi, who's like the grandfather of alternative and edgy underground comics of Japan. He, in fact, coined the term alternative comics, which is gekiga, which is another term I'm dropping on you today. Gekiga, which is alternative comics. So he actually coined that term, I think it was like in around 1959 or so. He did 8-page stories that he did for a young men's quarterly comic collection. And the only reason, from what I gather, the reason this is made possible is because Adrian Tomei, young indie superstar of America, really pushed for this and came up with the whole idea, I believe. I could be off on that, but from what I've read online and stuff, that's what I heard. He actually traveled to Japan, met with the artist, and they're going to do several collections of these books, one a year, each year collecting a year in the life of Yoshihiro Tatsumi's work. This specific book collects, as I said, 8-pagers. I was so impressed by this. I was so impressed that this stuff was published 36 years ago. Yes, you heard right. back in '69, I believe. It really holds up after 36 years. He really gets into the everyman. That's what this really delves into, and I was so impressed by what he was able to do in just 8-page stories. So incredible. A lot of it was dark. A lot of it delves into the psyche of being an everyman, working every day, and some of the after effects that can cause on you, the stress of that lifestyle, the stress of just Japanese culture on men and on women. It actually dealt with the sexual issues all over the place, which are pretty adult. This is an adult book, just so you know. Which at that time, I don't think anyone was writing that kind of stuff. I don't even know if people were writing this kind of stuff in America, to be honest, in 1969. I don't know, maybe there's someone out there who does. But it's an incredible dark story, just laden with wonderful little vignettes of stories of, like I said, the everyman, and you just feel like he's going all around Japan and just picking people that are in the city, working here, working there, and just their little stories. And it's really an incredible piece of work. A great price for what you get. It's $20, and that's a hardback, and you get 200 pages of comics. Oh, I also want to quickly say some notes about his artwork. It's all black and white stuff. There's no speed lines in this stuff, and the characters are all very simply drawn. And sometimes the backgrounds get very interesting with lots of textures, but for the most part, everything is very simple. Very, very simple, kind of clean. And he also packs sometimes a lot of panels on the page. Sometimes, he'll have 12 panels on a page or such like that. So that's kind of about the art. So that's my manga. I always say it wrong. Manga for the month. Thank you, Geek Speakers. If you're more interested in hearing stuff about comics, I do a podcast called Indie Spinner Rack. That's Indie Spinner Rack at blogspot.com. Come check us out. It's all about the indies. So thanks, guys. I'll see you next time on 5 Minutes of Manga!
Peter, you laugh every time you hear
Every
it.
time.
Yeah.
It's great.
Can't beat it. Perfect.
We have a few more minutes. We want to do the clip.
Yep.
I said in the previous episode that we were going to throw in some creator comments about a year in for the 2005 Year in Comics review. And the first one we have here is actually an audio clip from Mike Norton. So
Excellent.
Play that.
Hey, Brian, Peter, Shane, Matt, Kevin, and the Shiznit Pimp, Zeppo, Harpo, Sleepy, Dopey, Doc, all the rest of the CGS guys. This is Mike Norton, artist and co-creator of Gravity. Thought I would drop you guys a line and let you know my thoughts about 2005. Well, 2005 was a banner year for me. I finally went freelance full-time after working for many years with Devil's Due Publishing. I got to create something especially for Marvel, my own character, Gravity. Okay, bye.
You just have to make sure your arms are akimbo. That's all it means there.
Nice.
So we'll be bringing you some more of those every episode. That was really a lot of fun.
That's cool.
I'll say it again. Listen to his show too.
Yeah,
it's a lot of
Crankcast.
fun. My God.
I'm going to get a voicemail here.
Okay.
That's cool. I mean, it's neat for us just as well. I'm sure, that to be part of our forum and to contribute as he does and be frequently involved with us is.
Did you see his latest?
Oh my God!
Forum
yes.
edition.
That
Yes.
Doctor Strange pick.
Yes.
That rocks.
Where is that?
On the forum.
He just posted it
On
today.
the forum, but where on the forum?
With Red.
A thread that he started
fanfic.
called Strange.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Herm Strange.
Yeah.
Something like that.
He posted a Doctor Strange pick he drew and also a Captain Marvel picture.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Oh, yeah.
It's down
that's
further in the
gorgeous.
thread.
Okay.
And I'm not that Captain Marvel fan at all, but it is gorgeous.
I am that Captain Marvel fan, and it is gorgeous.
He's funny. He's like, I'm just doing this for fun. I'm like, oh, jeez, fun.
That Strange picture rules.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Hi, Peter. It's Peter Sniper here. I don't know. I think we may have screwed up a bit here because you didn't get my phone number. Anyway, I've sent you an email, and if I don't hear from you, I'm going out here in 3/4 of an hour. But if I don't hear from you, I guess maybe we should try again tomorrow. Anyway, I hope we can figure it out. Bye-bye.
How did he get our voicemail
Well,
line?
because this goes back. One of the episodes we did, we were trying to coordinate an interview with Peter Snyber, and he forgot to send his phone number, so obviously we couldn't call him. And then he just went on the website and saw the voicemail number, so and just left it there. So that's totally
That's cool.
That's kind of funny though.
But
we have to reschedule that.
Yeah, and I've been talking. Speaking of that, though, this is going to air on the 9th. So the previous Monday, or the previous Thursday, I should say, when books come out because of the holiday on the 5th, Marlene #1 shipped, and that is the Peter Snyber Independent Challenge pick. One of the Independent Challenge picks for, I think, December or something like that. Okay. So if you missed it in your comic shops or you didn't know it was out, go back, check it out, see if it's there. Marlene #1.
All right, here's another voicemail. Let's try this one.
Greetings, Comic Geekster speakers. This is Paul Siebert, or as you may know me on the forum, Paul Siebert. I just thought I'd drop you guys a line on a couple of Marvel books that came out last week, which I think may have been overlooked. The first one is Amazing Fantasy #15. This is, of course, the anniversary sort of issue to commemorate how the first Amazing Fantasy #15 introduced Spider-Man, and the task here was they gave 6 different writers 8 pages to introduce a new character, and most of the stories are actually pretty good. Among the talents they have involved are Greg Pak, Dan Slott, Robert Kirkman, and Sean McKeever, so with those names involved, you know it has to be good. And the other book in question is the Marvel Holiday Special, which has a trio of holiday-themed stories. The first one is by Shannon Garrity, who you might know from the webcomic Narbonic. There's also a very funny story by Jeff Parker in which the Avengers have to deal with a Ultron duplicate that thinks he's Santa Claus. And finally, there's a story called Christmas Day in Manhattan by Mike Carey, which is about a supervillain trying to make good on Christmas Day, and it's a very nice little holiday poem, which I think will get you in the mood for the season. Oh, and on one final notice, I got a preview advance issue of Marvel Team Up. Well, the new issue of Marvel Team Up, which comes out this Wednesday, it is frickin' swear. That's all. Goodbye.
There it is.
Cool. Excellent.
Well, I guess we'll wrap it up. Get all my papers ready here. What?
What's that book that's at your elbow? Is that something?
It's a calendar from
Comics Fire Guide.
Yeah, it's my CBG. If you're a subscriber, I guess you get a calendar in the mail. Did you get that, Jamie?
I get a calendar.
Nope, I ain't need a calendar.
I did.
Son of a.
Maybe not.
It's got all the conventions and stuff listed on it. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
Well, aren't
Yeah.
you special?
You're the newest one to subscribe to. I'm not
Yeah, I know.
long before you, and Jamie's been years.
Reminder that this episode of Comic Geek Speak was sponsored by eGerber Products for the best solution for all your Mylar needs. www.egerber.com.
Buy 1,000 at a shot. It's worth it.
Yeah. Get permission from your wife first.
No.
Oh boy, I can't even. I don't.
No, she knew I was going to do it. I warned her.
If you want to send us an email, it's comicgeekspeak@gmail.com, and our website is comicgeekspeak.com. Big thanks to all the guys at upallnightgaming.com for hosting our website. Please vote for us at Podcast Alley. It's a new year, and we need new votes. We have some T-shirts available in the swag section of our website, and we like getting free stuff. So if Christmas is over, but our birthdays are starting over again. So We'll post another.
What are you shilling for?
Just kidding. I was trying to vamp for a few seconds because, you know, no one ever says anything. I'm all alone. I gotta close the show. No one chimes in, so I'm just making shit up.
Hope everyone has a good weekend.
Bitch. If we talked, you'd
Read
be
some
all over
comics.
us.
We're brought to you in conjunction with worldfamouscomics.com, your spot on the internet for the best comic book and entertainment-related columns, contests, features, reviews, news, resources, and more.
And as always,
We are uniting the world's mightiest heroes.
One listener at a time.